It is the final week of Pitt football's 2025 spring camp down on the south side, and we are less than 5 days away from the Blue Gold spring game over at Acrisure Stadium on Saturday, April 12th. Welcome in, everyone, to another spring edition of the Pittsburgh Sports Now Football Pulse. I'm Nathan Brysinger with PittsburghSportsNow.com. Have you covered through the entirety of spring camp so far here in 2025, and we will have more coverage tomorrow from the Blue Gold team draft, along with the actual spring game itself on Saturday. So be sure to check out all of our content over on PSN. Now, today on this episode, we're going to be talking about the quarterbacks. We haven't talked about them just yet as a whole. We've gone position by position throughout spring, throughout the different practices, and now we are officially settled on the quarterback position. What's Eli Holstein been up to? How about the development of Julian Duggar? And where's freshman Mason Heinschel at right now with his progress in his first camp with the Panthers? Also going to be talking about the spring practice, the spring game itself, and the most recent, not actually a spring scrimmage, but the last session over on Friday. Now let's talk about the first thing that Pitt head coach Pat Narduzzi really emphasized and talked about in his press conference today, Tuesday, down on the south side. And when he brought up the spring game that looms in just a couple of days, talked about that it's going to be thud and not full live contact. Thud meaning really they're trying to keep all their players healthy, tackling basically above the waist, not anybody, driving people, finishing through tackles. So not as much physicality we're going to see now in the trenches, the offensive line. That's going to be pretty much the same. Everyone's pretty much butting heads down there, going at it full throttle. Now, when it comes to open field plays and the rest of that, tackling, finishing plays, that won't be as much full contact as typically in the past, as past spring games. Narduzzi mentioned this is probably, he may have had one other where has been thud as he puts in quotes. And this one will be thud. And primarily he said he would have gone live if it was on the ACC network, but it's not on TV, not on the ACC network at least. So he said, we're going to go thud. We're going to keep our players healthy as things are starting to mount up a little bit in that department, but we'll talk about that in a second. So if you're going to the game on Saturday down at Acrisure Stadium, don't expect full tackling. Of course, the quarterbacks would be off limits regardless, wearing probably their red pennies, but overall, not full-on tackling. Going to be thud, as Narduzzi likes to say a lot. He just loves saying that word. So Pitt, in the spring game, just going out and showing what they have, showing the skill that they might have, which players they'll have, as we'll get definitely more of an idea of who's really standing out in the spring, where a lot of the development has been for different units, especially something I'm looking for, defensive end. Where are they at right now with all the transfers they brought in? Blaine Spires, Joey Zielinski, along with Jaden Moore from Oregon. And then what about the returners? Nate Temple, Maverick Gracio, a couple of those other guys as well at DN. So spring game is coming up here quickly on us. This spring window has really flown. It's been a joy to cover and just check out all the things going on and developing in Pitt camp. And it's been not as interesting maybe as last spring because of bringing in Cade Bell in his first year. Now you're in year two. But there's still a lot of things to be figured out, a lot of questions still to be answered, some that have been, as we'll talk about the remainder of the week and get more into that on Thursday as we prep you for the spring game on Saturday. Now, Pitt had its third weekend session, I guess you could say, last week. Fourth, I guess you could say, but had two practices in between. The defense won the first one. The offense responded with the second one, cut their turnovers in half, more than half. And then Friday's session, which was moved up today because of the weather over at Acrisure Stadium, I guess the third session at Acrisure Stadium, that one was not a full scrimmage. NCAA only permits 3 scrimmages per spring camp, which the third scrimmage will be this Saturday for the spring game. So Pitt got after it, though, still got in some reps, got in situational stuff, a lot of situational stuff. Pat Narduzzi talked about some overtime periods, second, third down work. 1s and 2s got in about 90 snaps. Now the 3s, the numbers are starting to be limited a little bit just because injuries are starting to accrue here in spring camp, as kind of expected, as typically would happen. Also, there's still some guys recovering from injury from the end of the season. Rashad Battle hasn't participated in spring camp. Derek Davis, the running back. Sincere Lee and Raphael Poppy Williams at receiver. They've been there, but they haven't participated in full team activities. So those are guys that we know that have been out that we can report on. Now, tomorrow, when the draft happens, we'll get a full understanding of who really has been out, who's been injured, who's not going to play on Saturday. So be sure to stay tuned for that, because that's always a big important note of which guys are kind of out right now, still recovering from injuries, or could recently have suffered injuries. Narduzzi noted that there's been mid-camp surgeries. There will be surgeries at the end of camp. But he said, quote, luckily most of their guys have not sustained any serious injuries. So that's been important to hear from Narduzzi. Now, in terms of playmakers for that Friday session, looked like Andy Jean had 2 touchdowns for the receivers and the offense, which is important because he's a guy that, we've talked about a little bit as a transfer coming in from Florida. He's a younger guy. He's only going to be a redshirt sophomore this year. But we've heard a lot from Deuce Spann, Kateris Hicks. But what about Andy Jean? Seems like he had a real nice day on Friday. Jakarian Turner looks like he had another touchdown as well. And then Justin Thompson, the linebacker, a freshman, he had the lone interception, the lone takeaway for the defense in that session, that practice. So good to hear that another player, younger guy, is stepping up and made a nice play as well. Came off of a tipped ball at the line, Narduzzi said. So that's all from what we really heard from Friday's session. Again, working just a lot on situational stuff the last 2 windows that they've had on Friday and Tuesday today. Now, moving on to our main subject matter of this episode, talking about quarterbacks. Really, there's 3 to know. Obviously, Eli Holstein, Julian Duggar, and Mason Heinschel, the freshman, Now, David Lynch, he's still there, obviously, as the walk-on option. He could be an option just in case. Of course, just the way things unfolded last year, if it comes to it, they have to play him over maybe Mason Heinschel if he's not there just yet. But Heinschel coming in and early enrolling has been very beneficial, as I'll get into him in a second. But let's talk about Holstein here. I asked Pat Narduzzi today. We haven't really talked about him about 2 weeks, Holstein. We haven't asked about him too much since he really spoke to the media during that first week of camp. Now, Narduzzi brought up the point that he's still not fully 100% yet, as he was recovering from a lower leg, lower body injury that he suffered late in the season, then missed Boston College, then missed the bowl game, and missed the game before Boston College as well. So he did not play the final 3 games completely. He tried to get in there after he dealt with some concussion issues earlier in games against Virginia and Clemson and Syracuse. But he is still working back, it sounds like, with the physical therapist down there. So, but he looks good. He looks sharp. He looks where he needs to be. But another big thing is the confidence level is there. Maybe the maturity a little bit more is there. He just seems much more involved in practices, obviously as the leader of the quarterback room, but everything's centered around him now. Last year that wasn't the case. Christian Veillere was there, Nate Yarnell was there. Now it's all Holstein. He's got Duggar behind him who's pushing him pretty good, but doesn't mean, obviously, Duggar's not going to take snaps away from Holstein as much. He might go in for some specialized packages, as Narduzzi noted, but Holstein's your number 1. He looks good. He looks like his confidence is really high right now. He doesn't look like he's still recovering from an injury. He looks full go right now from at least what we can watch, and we'll get a way better understanding on what Saturday looks like. Now, in the first scrimmage, what I heard was he got out of the pocket a little bit too early and too much. He wanted to run, and that's been a big thing about at least his quarterback room. They're very athletic, so they're open to them running, but Holstein just was a little bit too soon, not sitting in there and not taking, going through his reads and progressions as much. And that was something I felt like he did really good last year in the first 6 or 7 games when they ran out to that really good start. He sat in the pocket well. He had very good situational awareness. He was really good at bouncing back from missing passes. Typically, I had stats last year, don't have them in front of me, but it was like 80% after a miss. He was completing the next pass. So he does a lot of good things well, a lot of intangibles and a lot of good physical tools to him as well. And Holstein last year completed 62% of his passes, 2,228 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. He plays a full 12, 13 games. Who knows where those numbers are? Can he this year get to 30 touchdowns? Can he surpass 3,000 passing yards? He rushed for also 328 yards. Could he go above 400, above 500? I mean, he is a guy that is mobile, and he can make plays both through the air and with his feet. And right now in practice, he just looks good. He looks in rhythm. He's running well. So that is something, that is good for Pitt this year, that he is back to where he needs to be. Can he now take that next step as a redshirt sophomore in this offense under Cade Bell on year 2? Now behind him, probably the biggest story, one if not, one of the biggest stories of spring camp so far has been the play and the progression in the past 2-3 months of Julian Duggar. He came in for relief of David Lynch in the bowl game. He tossed for 72 yards, completed 7 of 13 passes for a touchdown, did throw an interception, really one of the only big mistakes of the game. Had 88 rushing yards, added a rushing touchdown in the overtime, added a couple of 2-point conversions as well. He looked really good and was a revelation, like right in front of our faces as we're watching that game. Now, he has received a ton of praise, and maybe it's because we've asked a lot about him, but Narduzzi's been very high on him. He said Julian's taken it to another level. He's taken it to the next level. So that is a really good thing to hear, that you have Holstein, but then you also have Duggar right behind him and can be a very, very good second option if Holstein happens to go down. But also, we talked about that there could be some specialized packages for Duggar, primarily maybe running, but you bring him in and he still has that dual threat ability. He can throw the ball. He throws the ball really well, and that's something he's worked on. He told us today, he spoke with the media today. He talked about it. He said that's something he's been working on, just throwing it better, getting a little bit more in rhythm with his footwork, and it looks like it's paying off right now in spring camp. And Saturday will be a huge indication of where he is. And he could rival Holstein a little bit if he continues to play really well. And it's a very good thing for Pitt to have that. You have 2 quarterbacks that fit the system and that can play at this level. And Duggar, especially, Ben Hill's kid, Whipple kid, it's big for him coming to the hometown team and starting to really make a name for yourself, even if you're not going to be playing just yet. So some really good things out of Duggar from what I've seen, from what we've heard. And then finally, your third quarterback option, and we'll see what happens. Now, the 2 deep is only going to indicate, of course, probably Holstein and Duggar. But who's going to be the third guys? Are they going to give leeway to Lynch just because he was here last year and he played? Or are they going to let Mason Heinchel take that number 3 spot in the quarterback room? Because he has garnered some really good praise. I mean, Narduzzi likes where he's at, even just being a freshman, even being an early enrollee. Cade Bell has talked, has mentioned, several times the way he's played. He's been really good so far for Pitt this spring. This is a guy that is bringing some welcomed competition into this quarterback room. He's a freshman from Clay High School in Ohio, but he's playing really well. He has a nice, tight throwing motion, which is different than Duggar and Holstein, who are a little bit more open with it. But Heinchel, he can be accurate. He's protected the ball really well in that first scrimmage when there was a ton of turnovers. I heard that he completed upwards to 70% of his passes and didn't have a turnover. So some really good things from this quarterback room. It's not super deep. There's just 3 guys really right now, and Holstein, Duggar, and Heinchel. And what's crazy about it is these are all younger guys. Holstein is only a redshirt sophomore. Duggar's a redshirt freshman. Heinchel's in his first year with the program as a true freshman. So there's a lot of promise and upside to this quarterback room, even going beyond the 2025 season. And that's a whole nother can of worms we could open and talk about moving forward, just what this QB room looks down like 2 years down the road. And you can add in even the quarterback commit, Angelo Renda, who would come in next spring. But Holstein as your number 1, I mean, he looks like he could really take another leap forward, which will be huge for this Pitt team because they started off so well when he was playing so well. And if he can stay healthy, who knows what this Pitt team can do. And he's built a lot of good chemistry with his receiver unit and so on. So Holstein, Duggar and Heinschel really pushing each other. A really good thing in the quarterback room right now for Pitt. So we'll see more of that on Thursday, along with everyone gets to see it on Saturday, whoever's there at Acrisure Stadium, and we'll report more on that as the conclusion of spring practice is coming in a hurry here on the South Side and in Pittsburgh. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Pittsburgh Sports Now, a Football Pulse. I'm Nathan Breisinger. Be sure to go and check out all of our content over on PittsburghSportsNow.com.